and as well as this event basically brings attention to increasing light pollution because of the poorly designed and inappropriate use of indoor and outdoor artificial lights. Before I build a further introduction, let me share that this webinar is being presented to you by Sustainable Development Policy Institute's Network for Clean Energy Transition in Pakistan Research and Advocacy in collaboration with Cosmic Tribe in facilitation with International Dark Sky Association. So moving further, taking harmful effects of artificial lighting, it's an emerging topic of research around the world. And in this webinar, we'll reflect on how, with the immediate advantages introduced by the ambient lighting, how poor understanding of artificial lights can meanwhile cause serious environmental consequences for us. Recent research conducted by Punjab University here in Pakistan on skylights of Lahore shows that light pollution has significantly increased over the past 7 years. And it further suggests that light pollution rose around 23.4% from 2012 to 2019. So this is actually as a result of nighttime fluctuations, which shows that our 53.9% of Lahore suffers from the light pollution. And moreover, according to the light pollution map, we saw that the trend of growing light pollution in Pakistan is 3.9% per year. So these statistics show that how alarming situation is getting and how urgent we need action to work something on light pollution and also to conserve dark skies, because these topics are interrelated. And also overall, Pakistan is blessed with many dark skies throughout the country. There are different astrotourist sites, dark sky tourist sites, where we can use the opportunities of ecotourism in areas of Sindh and Balochistan. If I name a few, there are few sites like Kalvari Lake, Mud Volcano, Umair Beach, Asmi Beach, Ziyarat, etc., and the list goes on. Moreover, it's also important to recognize that light pollution is different as an environmental problem, because it disappears when we turn off the light. So unlike other important issues such as global warming or microplastics, it's a very different problem. It's not just about the legacy of the dark sky and not just about the inability to see the skies. It's a very complex environmental issue which affects plants, animals, us as a human being, and disrupts our whole life cycles. So it also contributes to the critical health conditions. Therefore, it definitely needs an appropriate sort of policy interventions with regard to lightning ordinances, lighting standards, and codes for adoption by local municipalities in Pakistan across the country. And to basically mobilize people on this and to build the momentum further in this discussion, we are here joined by a diverse cohort of representatives today from public sector organizations, from private sector experts, youth representatives, and international experts will share their perspectives on the topic as their domain of work. And I hope that at the end of session, we'll be able to build our position on the topic from a multi-sectoral lens. It's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Sardar Mohazzam. Dr. Mohazzam is Managing Director of the International Energy Efficiency and Conservation Authority, called NEECA. He holds PhD in public policy and specialized in area of energy and environmental policy. Dr. Mohazzam has been involved in policy analysis, strategic management, program evaluation, and technology management in the government sector for over 15 years. He supervised multidisciplinary projects, and he is seasoned in the field of financial and economic analysis, policy analysis, program design, evaluation methodologies, and technology management. So, Dr. Sardar, I would give the floor to you to please say some remarks on the topic and help us build this discussion. Thank you. Over to you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Zainab, for inviting me and Dr. Hina and SDPI for inviting NEECA and on this occasion. And I think this is very important, Dave, especially when it comes to light pollution and conservation of dark skies. This also provides us an opportunity to explain some of the areas where NEECA is working under its mandate with, especially the work that has been performed so far and some of the mandate which National Energy Efficiency and Conservation has in terms of the lighting sector and the work being done so far. So I first of all, I think my own exposure to the lighting pollution and some of experience with how we should value the dark skies it was a few years back when we went to see an observatory in Pennsylvania. And I think at that day, I realized that a lot of the people with their binoculars and these big, binoculars was very interesting to see that how far we are from the other galaxies, from other stars. And then all what we did at that time was, to my surprise, it was an area where there was no lights. And we all gathered together over there to see the moon. And I think today I realized that how much it is important that the lighting pollution affects us all in so many ways. I think that this whole excessive and inappropriate use of artificial lights, which we can definitely call as the lighting pollution, has very serious environmental consequences, not for human beings only, but for life, wildlife, and climate change, for the climate as well. So I can see that this challenge overall in the country and the way we are urbanizing in these parts, that also plays a very important role, that how we are creating these devastating effects. And I think if you look into this, that in one of the previous work, that how the lighting affects, especially, I think one of the case came to us is especially in terms of the poultry industry, that how and what kind of light they use and how much stress it provides to these birds. It's just like one thing, but I think overall, it definitely affects the headache, migraine, stress, anxiety, and also this melatonin production in the body, and which can increase the risk of specific cancers. So I think NEECA especially has been working over the last 2 years on a project entitled as Delivering the Transition of Energy Efficient Lighting in Residential, Commercial, Industrial, and Outdoor Sector in Pakistan. Under this project, we have been also working on the lighting policy and a lot of related components on that. We have been seeing this, that there are serious issues with the light pollutions on our environment. And there is a dire need of these programs to be established in the country. So I think recently what we have been doing is we developed the minimum energy performance standards for LEDs. And I think this is something which will leads us towards this side, that how we can look into the lighting industry in Pakistan, which ultimately affects the conservation of dark skies. We have been working with assemblers, with manufacturers, with importers, and I think the standards are being in place. There is this thing that we also created some of these demonstration effects, and we have been successfully able to implement some of these projects on the lighting, on efficient lighting, with Quaid-e-Azam University Central Library and Department of Electronics, with also CDA in one of the hospitals, and in NEECA building itself, along with the Secretariat Blocks 8. So I think this shows that we actually are looking into that direction, that how we can build around these lighting and how the lighting policy should work. But overall, this also requires a lot of response, awareness, and understanding at the consumer level. How we can aware a lot of these audience, how we can inform that what is actually the lighting pollution is. And I think this awareness can also help in two ways. One, the country, when it faces the shortfall of electricity, this is the one challenge. But using the appropriate light and the right color of the light, and this will also affect the light pollution. So it will be killing two birds with one stone, that energy efficiency can also be achieved, and at the same time, without compromising the need for lighting without polluting the environment is something that we are looking for into it. So NEECA has initiated this standardization and labeling regime, which will force manufacturers to only assemble or import certified lights, which can reduce glare, sky glow, and light splits to great degree, which are the main causes of light pollutions. I think we are also working in this regard with the Pakistan Engineering Council on building energy codes. And this is also an area which will provide that how detailed insight of efficient usage and selection of luminaries for the buildings will be discussed under that. So overall, once this building codes and these minimum energy performance standards will be enforced, this will definitely help us in many ways to reduce this light pollution in the country. I think in last, I would like to highlight that awareness raising on the impact of light pollution. I think this session definitely is a way and means towards this end of achieving the reduction of light pollution, and it will definitely create awareness for us. I think it also requires how we can change the human behavior for utilization of lights and avoiding irresponsible and excessive usage. Definitely some of the regulations we are bringing in, some of the rules we are developing around it, which were not in place earlier, now they will be enforced. And we have already got it approved from NEECA board, and the federal cabinet will approve, and then there will be a lot of implementation around it. Second, I think we need to work more on optimization of lighting points through application of motion and light sensors or light shields. I think this is also an area where integration with Internet of Things based solution in the lighting sector will be very important. So technology can also play its role along with the consumer's behaviors or the behavioral change that is required, and where we can do a lot of nudging. And lastly, I think we can encourage manufacturers to promote warm lights more instead of cold lights in that case. And this will also help us to reduce the lighting pollution, and we can conserve our dark skies. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sardar. And through your inputs, I think we are on the right way to basically implement these standards. And you rightly mentioned about the role of technology, changing consumer behavior, and definitely the role of manufacturers in helping us build this momentum and bring this change in the use of lighting as per proper standards. Your points have been rightly mentioned, and definitely will build up on this to further build this discussion. Thank you so much for joining us. And with this, we will move on to our second speaker, Rayan Khan. Rayan is a founder of Cosmic Stripe. He received his master's degree in space science with a specialization in astrophysics. He's also an aerospace certified apprentice and holds an aircraft maintenance engineer's license. Rayan is is a representative of the International Astronomical Union, IAU Dark Skies Ambassador, Young Persons Committee Head of Royal Aeronautical Society Pakistan Division, and has a great passion for the field of astronomy and space. Rayan, thank you so much for joining us today. And while looking at your background, I would like you to build a little background for our audience and share some thoughts on the concept of light pollution and its link with the dark skies and climate change particularly. And also it would be great if you could share your side of the story of how did you get involved in the dark sky advocacy coming from the City of Lights, Karachi. So yeah, over to you.
Hi, hello everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me in today's session, our today's webinar, and celebrating International Dark Sky Week. Well, when I started talking about light pollution in Pakistan specifically, I faced a lot of challenges, which is like living in a city of lights. Talking about light pollution is a complete resistance. And when we talk about light pollution and talking about City of Light, which is a beauty of light, was actually not resonating with the people living here. And apart from this, people actually associate that we do not have enough energy, or we do not have light pollution in Pakistan at all. So when we talk about light pollution in general, 99% of US and Europe is covered with light polluted areas. And when you compare, Pakistan is actually still having darkness. This was the actual key point that I took and created a debate on this topic, that why don't we preserve our dark sky and promote tourism in Pakistan or protect them, also creating policies in lighting, specifically for urban areas, to create an impact on all these. For example, when we talk about climate change specifically, light pollution is somehow indirectly interlinked with climate change. How? We are using fossil fuel, we are using natural resources, and we are unaware of this, that we are consuming each and every day a lot of lights, and turning on all these lights at night, consuming more energy, and which is energy wastage somehow. And I would say that this is one of the major issue that I found that we should address when we talk about light pollution. So how I started, that was, as I mentioned, that from my aircraft maintenance engineering background, moving from aerospace to the outer space was a little challenging. And talking about all these topics here in Pakistan, even you consider aerospace science, space science, or even talk about astronomy or dark sky is still a new subject for to a wider audience. To make these things accessible and to make this topic more understandable for the audience here in Pakistan, I used art as a tool to educate people about light pollution. Back in 2019, when I started this campaigns, educational outreach activities at school, colleges, and universities, it was a bigger challenge for me to address this, that how light pollution is affecting all of us. When we talk about, as you have already mentioned, Zaigham, that light pollution is not connected with astronomers. Dark sky is actually for all of us. How? Because when we talk about biodiversity, especially when we talk about plant life, or even when we talk about our human health, it is directly connected with light pollution. How it is affecting, it is very common that you see a lot of people having anxiety, depression, all these issues that is connected with light pollution, and our younger generation facing this kind of issues these days. So addressing all these things are very important. And I realized that through my to all those challenges that I faced during my journey from back in 2019 till now, is what I say that using non-scientific terminology, engaging the audience in their own style, in their way, that sharing the perspective, how do they receive light or darkness is very important. Wearing costume was a marketing strategy that I use in public space to educate people about this, to get the attention from the audience, and talking about light pollution, that I'm the dark sky hero, I'm the dark sky ambassador, or talking about this in Pakistan, was a real mission that I found in my life, that how it should be. And when we talk about my personal journey, as I worked on aircraft, so I will interlink with this topic that when aircraft arrive, before arriving the aircraft, you prepare about the maintenance of that aircraft. Similar in this manner, when I talk about light pollution, we already have darkness in Pakistan. Why can't we preserve it, or preserve it in a way that it's going to be a future heritage for the future generation? Because already light pollution is increasing by 2% globally, and in Pakistan it's increasing by 3.9%, which is a quite alarming situation right now. So this is all about what I want to add from my side. And all these curriculum educational activities are really important to start talking about light pollution on and talking about awareness campaigns, and all these things are really important in Pakistan. I think that's a right time for us to start talking about this issue.
Thank you so much, Rayan. I hope that your journey will help some other young people to work on this topic, and they can take this as a good practice, as a best practice, and will learn from that to take this forward to their community. Thank you so much for joining us today. I would request Dr. Hina to take the discussion forward from here. Dr. Hina, please.
Thank you so much, Zainab, for supporting this in the beginning. And I'm very grateful to our esteemed panelists, and especially for the opening remark by Dr. Sardar Mohazzam on setting up the scene in the context of Pakistan. Very pleased to be part of this discussion on a subject that is not much discussed here, but something that our research community is keenly working on, and of course being taken up by the government in the form of different initiatives is absolutely a great encouragement for us to see that it's being considered efficiently. With this, I would like to take the discussion from Zainab and take it forward to Michael, who has been actively involved in the dark sky advocacy for 35 years and is serving as a dark sky ambassador for the International Astronomical Union and International Dark Sky Association. Michael Marlin is the author of Astrotourism, Stargazers, Eclipse Chasers, and the Dark Sky Movement. It's the first book on the topic of new emergent market of the star tourism. And because of his decades of work on this stage, he's a seasoned and effective communicator of the complex subjects, and currently working as an astrotourist, a 1-hour weekly documentary television series, which takes a deep cultural dive into humanity's relationship with the stars and how the light pollution is impacting the biosphere across the planet. We are really fortunate to be joined by him and to learn about the experiences that he would like to share with us today. And in terms of what has been the learnings and what could be exactly the best tools and the strategies that could be suggested for the activists to follow, especially with regards to the community engagement. So over to you, Michael. I think, Michael, you're muted.
There we go. Good morning. From where I am, it's 1:30 a.m. in the morning. And thank you for having me on. It's truly an honor. I appreciate the invitation. I first got exposed to a dark sky in 1986 when friends of mine took me from Los Angeles, where I was working, out into the deserts of California. We had to drive about 3 hours to get far enough away to get away from the glare of the city lights. And this was, again, back in 1986. And my first thought was, this goes by unnoticed every night because people's lights are on. So I started creating performance art pieces and eventually created a theatrical production that toured to 5 continents and 15 countries called Luma. And it was done entirely in the dark to raise awareness of the night skies and our loss of darkness. This is what got the attention of the International Dark Sky Association and the International Astronomical Union. From there, I got involved with the lighting aspect of dark skies, since Luma was all about a show about light that was done in the dark. So I got exposed to the new technology, the warm amber lights that are being used that preserve our night vision. I began writing the book a few years ago and heavily researched this. And what I've come to learn is that the connection that we have with the stars transcends all of our constructs, be the political, religious, philosophical, it even transcends language. It is something that binds the whole human race together. And our experience of it is plural. We all have this plurality of experience, but our own individual experience of it is singular. And each person that I've ever exposed to a dark sky has had some sort of epiphany the first time they see it, that they see that they're connected to something much larger than their lives. And that's a very expansive feeling. When we can't see the heavens that we belong to, we forget that we're part of the heavens. We forget that aspect of ourselves, that we are a part of all of that out there. And in today's world, we are driven not by the higher angels of ourselves, unfortunately, but by our pocketbooks. So I saw the best way to preserve a dark sky was to approach it towards the monetary value of a dark sky. And this is why the research of Terrell Galway and David Mitchell is so important, the work that they did determining what the economic value was of a dark sky by studying astrotourism on the Colorado Plateau. And I found some images. I'd love to be able to share these if possible. But what I did was I found an image of Pakistan at night with all of the different places where there was still light that you could see it, Karachi, Islamabad, and saw the dark places there in the country. And the images circling those areas and defining them as regional economic development, RED, R-E-D, regional economic development. Red light is the type of light that we use to preserve our night vision. So these areas where there's nothing, where there's no development, where some people would say, oh, it's backwards because it has no electricity, are really places that will lure people to go and see the last pristine night skies that we have in the world. So again, a regional economic development in these areas in Pakistan that are still dark. Another slide that I have, again, perhaps you could put this up on your website, is some research that was done by the Starlight Foundation and Airbnb showing the growth rate of areas around those places that have been designated dark sky regions, all the way from the Atacama Desert to the Mackenzie Park in New Zealand. The growth rate is in the hundreds of %. And this is pretty much the case across the board of all of the international dark sky parks, reserves that have been developed and certified. The areas around those places is showing more visitation than ever before. So the advocacy that I see is going to be effective in Pakistan in rural areas where usually sees no monetary touristic value because there's nothing there for people to go see, but now there is, because dark skies are becoming more and more rare. And as something becomes rare, the value of it goes up. So that's my hope, is that Pakistan will see these regional economic development areas, and as they would in any economic development area, invest in it. We stop and think about what we will do to preserve those areas. In Idaho, they're taking down all of the dams because they're going to make more money with the fishermen coming in and fishing than having the water, than having the rivers dammed up. Another thing that Astrotourism, and I'll close with this, is the ecotourism is a huge industry. And when a scuba diver goes and dives a reef, they usually end up joining an organization that protects that reef, whether it's Greenpeace or the Ocean Conservancy. In America, there's an organization called Duck Hunters Unlimited. Their mission is to fill the sky with ducks. Well, they're hunters, they want to shoot ducks. But to do this, they preserve wetlands. And they're one of the most effective organizations in America for preserving wetlands. The same thing with in the Amazon. They're finding that zipline tours through canopies are going to make more money for the local economy than cutting down the forest. So if Pakistan and the development agencies there can see a dark sky as a natural resource, then they'll do what they need to protect it and preserve it. And through that, it's a win-win on both sides.
Thank you so much, Michael, for sharing such learned experience and, of course, insights for Pakistan, and especially talking about the potential of ecotourism in Pakistan. I think I would like to navigate to Dr. Zaigham Abbas, who is actually serving as a Deputy Director and National Program Manager at the Ministry of Climate Change. And if you could help us understand the current lightning related measures taken by the government, by the Ministry of Climate Change, and how do you see that integration into the clean lighting initiative in Pakistan in terms of its potential in all the aspects, including the ecotourism? So over to you, Dr. Zaigham.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Hina. Do you hear me?
Yes, please continue. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And as explained, Michael, very positive and very encouraging comments regarding this, regarding dark sky protection. I just want to share about the current situation in the Ministry of Climate Change. As ministry is the national focal points of international multilateral environmental agreements, and currently we are dealing with the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and Minamata Convention on Mercury. So these two conventions are interlinked with the global warming and use of mercury in the lighting products. So recently, Pakistan became the party of Minamata Convention on Mercury, and we also attended the fourth meeting of the conference of the parties at Bali, Indonesia. And it is very important that we have to focus about the use of these lights and their final, these light products are increasing in every functions, in outdoor activities, and as well as they are creating pollution. There are, if you are considering the light pollution, if you go back, there were only two types of pollution: air pollution and water pollution. And after the urbanization, then there is a solid waste pollution. And afterward, then they added the noise pollution. And even they have make the national environmental quality standards for noise pollution in the industries, in outside, in inside. So like this, as light pollution is also increasing in particularly in the urban cities, in the city centers, and in many functions you go and you see that the different types of lights are being used in bulk. Even it also impacts on our wildlife as well as our biodiversity. So in ministry point of view, we have to consider this emerging light pollution, and we have to work at the national level, and definitely we will support the Sustainable Development Policy Institute's initiatives and its associates with the Network for Clean Energy Transition in Pakistan, as well as Cosmic Tribe. So we will be happy to become the part for the advocacy at national level, and we will definitely strengthen this initiative, and we will continue. And second point that is I want to discuss, because if we are producing these lights and these, there is no specific standards that at what function, at what location, what types of lights we have to install. If you go in some places, even you cannot see that in the junk of lights and different types of lights, like yellow lights, like extremely white lights. So that confuse the, and they impacts on the physical situation of that place. So I think we have to emphasize about the specification, about the use of the lights, and that is very important, as Michael mentioned, that the dark sky in Pakistan is very nice, and different places you can go and you can see the in different areas like Lake Saiful Muluk and Deosai National Park and other places I have already visited. So this also increased the ecotourism in Pakistan. So with these words, I will recommend that SDPI should continue these activities, and we will then have a bilateral meeting in the ministry, and we will work on it. And in the same spirit, we will also to go work with the provincial departments, provincial stakeholders. So that is very important. And as well as I also recommend to engage the manufacturer of these lighting equipment. So that is very important, that we have to educate them and to involve the tourism industry as well. So these are a few things which I want to share with you. Thank you, Dr. Hina.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zaigham, for the great interventions and also encouraging note on the ministry's appetite to work on it more closely. And STPI under the NSET in collaboration with the stakeholders and the Dark Skies and the Green Lightning Coalition and other partners will definitely be continuing working on that and work closely with the ministry to have more collaborative effort. And the recommendations for the provincial government is definitely one of the important steps to take in the context of Pakistan, where measures can be taken and steps should be impactful. So moving on with this, thank you so much for your time today. I would request my audience to please write in the Q&A box if you have any questions. Meanwhile, I would like to continue the discussion and navigate to Mr. Adil Ahmed, who is serving as an Assistant Director at Sindh Tourism Development Corporation. And I would like to hear his perspectives on the policy landscape and regulatory scope support for promoting the dark skies tourism industry. We have heard from the previous speakers about the preservation and the potential of these dark skies to help boost tourism and also to be acting as a lead for socioeconomic growth in the country. So how do you see that the current policy landscape and the regulatory frameworks are supporting this initiative and this industry in Pakistan? Over to you, Adil.
Good evening, good afternoon. First of all, can you hear me, Rayan?
Yes, we can. Thank you so much. Good morning. And for Michael, we appreciate it's a very early morning, midnight. So thank you. Thank you. Please continue. Okay. Thank you for joining.
If you can see the screen I just shared.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I'll start my presentation from the potential of dark sky tourism in Sindh. So here, the basic thing, welcome to Indus Valley Civilization. The next thing is, now these are the categories which I have distributed that dark sky tourism can have potential in, because Sindh has diverse tourism opportunities. So I have divided these tourism opportunities into these four, starting from archaeological and heritage, then ecotourism, then high altitude and desert tourism, then spiritual tourism. So archaeological and heritage tourism. So Kotdiji is very prehistoric site. It's considered to be established before Mohenjo-daro and has a significant stargazing and scar tourism potential. So in this presentation, I will show you the places where dark sky tourism has the potential. And then we'll talk about the policies and other things.
Yeah,
so
I'm sorry to interrupt, Adil. I think your slides are not moving, or is it's still on the first slide?
Okay.
Yeah. If you could do the slide show, probably it could help us.
Yes, I have done this slide show.
Yeah, now
is it moving now?
Yeah, if you do it manually without the slideshow, I think it would be helpful.
Okay. Is it right now?
Yes, now we are on slide 2.
Okay, yes.
Right, yes.
And then this is, I told you that I have divided in categories.
Sure.
Archaeological tourism, ecotourism, high altitude desert, and spiritual tourism. So Kotdiji is the one side which we have dark sky tourism potential. And it is also connected with the dark sky tourism or astrotourism culture and heritage. Like these seals are found from Mohenjo-daro, the Kotdiji side. And it shows that there is strong connection between astrotourism or astronomical things with their culture, because they're using it with their seals. Next is Mohenjo-daro, which is also one of the big UNESCO World Heritage Site and a big site for astrotourism. Then the Renicode. These are few pictures which I have found from internet. Makli is another UNESCO World Heritage Site, which is the potential for astrotourism. This is Chowkundi Graveyard in Karachi. Shahjahan Mosque, Chato. Basically, if you'll see, Rayan have did a study. I have selected those places where there is a bit low light pollution. So it will be easy for us to implement a policy in these sites. So Masum Shaman, Sakha, Umair Fort. Again, Kotdiji Fort, Mukhi House. It's in city, but I think there can be some observatory, or there can be something which can promote astrotourism. Fez Mahal is another thing. The Lansdowne Bridge at night. Gadi Khuda Baksh. The other side for astrotourism, for putting some binoculars or other things to promote astrotourism. Same goes for Mojib. Then I have categorized this ecotourism. Now, ecotourism, I think it's very much related to the astrotourism, because the sites, they already have very low light pollution. We have 10 Ramsar sites in Sindh: Drake Lake, Halaji Lake, Manshal Lake, Nerdi Lagoon, Indus Dolphin Reserve, Indus Delta. It also has a very huge dark sky tourism potential. Even there are some observatory of Sparko on this coast. Hamal Lake, this is Akdo, Jabo Lagoon, Bakar Lake. This is the only place in Sindh which I have witnessed myself. I went there and I have seen very beautiful Milky Way, and I get fascinated and get attracted toward this astrotourism. This is Kinjar or Curly Lake. This is a picture from internet which I have pasted here to show you the stargazing potential. Botar Lake, Groove Forest, Mayani Forest, Kathadi Forest. See, these forests, they have already low lights. I believe that if we'll go there, considering the Rayan's aesthetics, we can get a good tourist potential for astrotourism. Shah Belo, this is wildlife which is connected, or this large pollution have directly effect on it. High altitude, Gorak Hill, Achlothar and deserts, Color After, Karunjar Mountain. Then spiritual tourism. I thought it's important to connect astrotourism with our existing tourism categories. So millions of people come and visit Sindh, considering spiritual tourism. Lal Shahbaz Qalandar. On an average, at Urs, there are more than 3 to 5 million people who used to visit. And near it, there is a huge potential of dark sky tourism. So, Sichal Sarmas, Bodhisar Mask, Odero Lal, Pir Potoro, Shah, Bodhisar, Jain Temple, Buddhist Stupa, and thank you. So, this is all about the tours, astrotourism potential sites. Now I will take few minutes and to highlight the need of policy. See, after shortlisting or getting out all these tourism points and to connect with astrotourism, basically we need a policy. Of course, if we find a place and then there are some light pollution, which is what would I say, which is not making a proper astrotourism site, then we need some policies to aware the local or aware those people who are surrounding that to reduce that light pollution, so that the site can get the potential of astrotourism. Next in policy, I would like to add tour industry, tour operators, tour agents to come on it, to spread more awareness on astrotourism and to promote astrotourism. Further, one thing which I can do, which I am in touch, which I was discussing with Rayan, is that the STDC hotel, motel and resorts can adopt dark sky friendly lights, or can also aware the nearby people so that they reduce the light pollution. So this step can be taken quickly. So this is all about astrotourism potential in Sindh, which comes under my domain. And I would like you, and I'm thankful to SBDI for arranging this seminar, webinar, and other organizations who are collaborating with them. And taking this opportunity, I would also like to request all the stakeholders and speakers to help us making Sindh tourism paradise. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adil, and your points are well noted and will be conveyed in the form of suggested solutions and policy recommendations to the relevant authorities. And of course, as a collective effort, through our research and advocacy efforts, we'll be continuing this discussion and make it definitely a great potential for the province of Sindh as well as the other provinces of Pakistan. And thank you for sharing the beautiful sites in your presentations. I think very interesting and worthy to visit. So I think for our panelists and participants from Pakistan can definitely go and visit, but we would also like to welcome Marlin and Michael Sholand to visit us, and we can take you around those sites to explore more tourism in this regard. So with this, I would like to thank you to the previous panel, to Adil, and move on to Asim, who has Umair Asim, who holds a master's in astronomy from James Cook University, Australia, and is also a fellow of Royal Astronomical Society, United Kingdom. He's currently serving as president at Lahore Astronomical Society and joint secretary of Khwarizmi Science Society. I apologize if I pronounced it in a wrong way. So Umair has been working with students and particularly youth through community engagement on these activities. So Umair, if I could propose the question in terms of what do you think could be the way forward in terms of improving the potential of developing dark sky tourism or astrotourism in Pakistan, and learning from your experience from Australia and the other parts of the world, how do you see it in the context of Pakistan?
Yeah, so first, hello everyone, and thank you so much for inviting me. Astrotourism, so half part is astro, so that relates directly to me. So you got the right guy. So, okay, so the thing is that my first experience to the truly dark sky was back in something like early 90s when I went to Himalaya, and I actually saw black clouds. Black clouds because they were not reflecting any city light, any ground light. And that was totally alien to me, black clouds. So now when I go to that place, don't even start. I mean, the place is completely died now. So the idea is, to me, two things I want to share. In Punjab, I live in Lahore. In Punjab, there are very few places left for dark skies, and probably Punjab has already lost bottom one sky, which is the blackest night sky we can see from the planet Earth. But the idea is to preserve even bottom 3 or 4 sky if we can. So we should not aim for the perfect dark sky because it probably will not happen. A bit darker skies, that would be awesome. And to promote astrotourism, just give a telescope to anyone and he would start asking for the darker sky. So so that will be awesome. And I mean, right now from Lahore, it takes something like 3 hours, 4 hours, and much more to go to Himalaya if we want to find a dark sky in the mountains. But I mean, we just saw a beautiful presentation on Sindh province. They have awesome places there for general visitors, and they can make it astro-tourism as well. Balochistan is probably the best in terms of dark skies, and I think that there are a couple of since I've been using telescope for the last 30 years, so the first thing which comes to my mind if I want to take a telescope and go to a darker sky is the security. So if we like it or not, I mean, security is actually the first concern, because we are out there in the wilderness. So that is practically the first thing that comes into our mind. The next thing I believe is what we can do, we amateur community can do. We can actually collaborate with the tourism companies. So since tourism companies already know how to do all the logistics with the people and with the stuff they carry, and if we can collaborate with them, and two of us can actually then provide good places, good opportunities for astrotourism. Luckily, there are so many amateur communities in Pakistan right now and popping up every day. And there are so many telescopes there in Pakistan. So if any tourism company wants to promote their own business, we are the people. Just talk to us. There are so many cities in Pakistan which have these astro communities, and we have all the astro gears. They wouldn't have to worry about the astro gears, which is very expensive and delicate. So we amateur astronomers would love to go to those places which are a bit darker than their own cities. So I think that will be a very quick and very productive result if we can actually collaborate with the tourism companies. And then years back, there were sodium lamps, and we astronomers were happy to have those sodium lamps in the cities, because we will use just a single filter, and that filter will cut out all the sodium photons, and we will see a darker sky. But with the invent of LEDs, yes, we are saving a lot of energy, but we have lost that capability. So yes, astronomers are figuring out different ways to invent new filters that can help us in viewing and especially imaging from the cities. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, you cannot take your telescope, which is a bulky stuff, and it comes with lots of accessories as well. You cannot take all these to the mountains, to deserts every night. So we do most of our imaging and viewing from our own backyard. So LED actually is very destructive because using filters is really tough with that. So, I mean, that's probably all what I thought of. So, as amateur astronomers communities and tourism companies, they need to shake hands, they need to combine their efforts to promote astrotourism.
Thank you so much, Umair. And I think we would like to take this offer to, to be collaborating with you, and I experience such places with the
already.
Thank you so much. And I think that was very insightful, and a lot of information, a lot of recommendations that's coming out of this webinar. I think we would be having a nice comprehensive recommendations that we could lead on to the relevant ministries and authorities, and of course the tourism development industries, as well as the amateur community. And I think you have already answered one of the questions in the chat box on how can amateur community help with astrotourism. So this is exactly what it was. And the other question, I'll come back later and quickly move on to Michael Scholand, who has who is a technical lead for the Clean Lighting Coalition and one of our prominent partners for the work on the promotion of clean lighting in Pakistan. Mike supports governments and markets around the world in their transition to clean, mercury-free, and energy efficiency lighting. And with over 25 years of experience on policy and market analysis, he has provided support to governments in Africa, Europe, South and Southeast Asia, North and South America, and the Middle East. And he's a lighting certified by the National Council on the Qualifications for the Lighting Professionals in North America. And we are very fortunate to have him in the discussion today, and would like to keenly learn about how basically the technical aspects of the energy efficient lighting. And we would also like to know that the analysis and the comments of yours in terms of how the optimization of artificial lighting usage at night, specifically cut off the LED street lights and LED street light motion sensing with dimming, can be a game changer in energy saving and could effectively address the light pollution issues. So over to you, Michael, and thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Dr. Hina, and thanks very much for having me today on the panel. I really appreciate being here, and I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to all of the presentations that came before. The photographs of Pakistan are absolutely gorgeous, and it reminds me, just a little personal note, back in my 20s, I climbed Kilimanjaro in Africa, and that experience, it stays with me to this day. When I got up at 2 in the morning to go to the bathroom and saw the Milky Way for the first time in my life, I was blown away by the number of stars I could see. And it was amazing. And then another personal footnote, my son is at Warwick University here in the UK, studying physics with astrophysics. So I feel like I'm in good company with some people who could be future mentors for him in that field. And actually, my slides will, I do have some slides to share, so I'll just grab the screen if that's possible. It follows on quite well from what Dr. Umair was just saying regarding LED lighting and how we can perhaps address some of the issues that are affecting the dark sky. So just first a little, thank you for that introduction. I am representing today the Clean Lighting Coalition. So we are a coalition of industry, health authorities, mercury experts, and NGO partners around the world working to eliminate mercury in lighting through the Minamata Convention on Mercury. So just like Dr. Zaigham, apologies for the pronunciation, I was also in Bali at COP4 for Minamata, and we were working on fluorescent at COP4, and perhaps HID lighting can be a topic of discussion at COP5. We'll have to see in November 2023. So our website is here, and I will be sharing these slides with SDPI, so all the delegates can have them and follow the link to see our website. So I'm going to discuss two things today. One is the sort of 3 steps you can do to reduce outdoor light pollution, and this is actually from the International Dark Sky Association. So it's great that Marlin is with us today. And then the second thing I'll be discussing is a new regulation, or relatively new, that was adopted in France to reduce outdoor light pollution, and I'll discuss that very briefly. I should say that I'm not an expert in this, but I do know one of the authors of it, and I have his information here. So if you want to dive deeper into this topic, I can help arrange a future meeting for you with him. So the 3 sort of key steps to reducing light pollution are to look at the color of the light. So Umair was just discussing that, the correlated color temperature, the color of the light, because blue light scatters more in our atmosphere and therefore makes the sky more opaque because of that light. And that's also why the Earth looks blue from outer space. It's a function of the atmosphere. Dimming is an option, right? We don't need every street light at 100% brightness all the time. Nighttime is not a busy time on the roads, not a busy time, pedestrian walkways. LED is exceptionally easy to dim. And so with motion sensors and smart lighting, you not only save more energy, but you actually eliminate light pollution at the same time, or greatly reduce it by lowering the level of light when there's nobody around. And then finally, the shield. So there's different types of fixtures, and the optics, one of the advantages of LED is that the optics are much better in terms of being able to control them. And so I just talked briefly about what are called full cutoff light fixtures. So just going through these one by one, for color, you want to choose a warm white light. So that reduces the amount of blue that's emitted from the light fixture, because blue scatters more and it brightens the night sky more than any other part of the color spectrum. So you see here in the bottom of the screen, this is called correlated color temperature, or CCT, and that describes how the light appears, the appearance of it. Warm colors are at the low end of the spectrum, and cool colors are at the high end of the spectrum. So it's counterintuitive in terms of the numerical values of the Kelvin temperature scale, and the descriptors of warm versus cool. But essentially, the recommendation from the International Dark Sky Association is that outdoor lamps should have a CCT of 3000 or below. And you can see on the diagram that is getting towards a more orange light or yellow light, such as the high pressure sodium lights that Umair was speaking about. So that's the recommendation there. Second is to dim the lights when no one needs it. So as I mentioned earlier, LEDs are very easy to dim. When you have an outdoor lighting system, such as the one pictured here on the right, they have motion sensors on them, and as cars travel, they communicate with each other and they observe from their vantage point the objects moving in space, and they by the 1st of January 2019. Existing luminaires had to be adjusted, so the ULR was 0 from 2020. The schedule requirements from 2021, and then finally, before January 2025, all luminaires with a ULR greater than 50 have to be replaced by compliant luminaires, new luminaires that meet the spec. So yeah, it's kind of exciting that they were able to get that through. These are my details here. My colleague Niti, who is our Asia Pacific regional lead, who unfortunately couldn't be with us today on the call, but helped to arrange for me to speak with you. So as I say, I'll be sending you these slides so you've got them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. And I think it's very nice that you'll be sharing the presentation with us and the slides, and very helpful for us to have a deep dive into it to develop more understanding. And I think with this, we have been able to have a lot of learned experience from all the esteemed panelists with a lot of information. And I'm sure that the attendees and also the participants who have joined us today online have benefited from it with a lot of experience from all around the world, and how we could actually see the potential in the context of Pakistan. And I think it's of a very significant priority. And of course, like I said earlier as well, that this is just the beginning of this initiative. And of course, we're not letting it just pass this webinar. So we'll be in close collaboration and coordination with the all of the actors who are participating, who are performing in their capacities in this field, and take it forward. So with this, I would like to thank you and pay my special gratitude on the behalf of SDPI and NCET to all the panelists who have joined us today, and for this very fruitful discussion. And the notes will be shared by our team so that it could be circulated amongst us. And it will also leave us to a formulation of policy brief that will be published in upcoming months. And I think that will be an added on value for this webinar, with all of the contributions to create an outcome and an impact for the future. So thank you again, once again. I'm very grateful to SDPI's team, Zainab, and the other core team members for organizing this in collaboration with our partners, Michael, Marlin, Rayan, Umair, Adil, Dr. Zaigham from Ministry of Climate Change, and not the least, MD, National Energy Conservation Authority from Ministry of Energy of Pakistan. So it's been a great pleasure to meet you. I hope to see you sometime in person in Pakistan with a more high-level advocacy event on the same topic. And I would like to close this from my end, but I would like to play a small video from our Executive Director, Dr. Waqar Ahmed. He unfortunately had to run through a medical emergency at the last minute, so he recorded a message. And we would be actually playing this on the behalf of a special gratitude from STPI. And we'll end this webinar for today, and hope to take this conversation forward later. Thank you so much from my side, and I would request the IT team to kindly play the video.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me start by thanking all our resource persons today, distinguished panelists, and SDPI's partners who have really helped us in bringing this excellent discussion home, and of course something that we look forward to continuing. Unfortunately, I had to leave at the very last moment due to a competing engagement, but really happy that the team is taking this forward. I believe light pollution and conservation of dark skies is certainly a less talked about priority in the policy circles, something which think tanks like SDPI must take it on themselves, and on which SDPI and partners should engage regularly with the policy circles and help government partners wherever needed to address this very issue. At the same time, we also believe that light pollution, or the fact that we are not prioritizing the conservation of dark skies, is also a result of our prevalent economic policies. We need more responsible economic policies that not only curb light pollution and also sort of highlight the very fact that we would like to optimize or transition from the current baseline to a much more improved level. In this regard, of course, within the fiscal policy, the government has tools such as the tax policy, as well as the way we design our subsidies in the energy sector, for example, and subsidies for production subsidies for industry, for example. So I believe there's quite a lot of room where our economic ministries can also engage with the climate change ministry and the departments which are responsible for environmental protection. NEECA is here. I think all of us need to come together and see how our various economic, energy, climate change policies can really complement each other to address this problem. Light pollution is also a function of the habits that we have at, for example, a household level, or the way, for example, we use energy at our industrial level, cottage industry level even, and these habits also need a response or have to be addressed. We are, of course, in the short term, bound to see an increased incidence of light pollution unless we move fast. And the reason, of course, as most of you know, is, or one reason for this, as most of you know, is increased urbanization, or the lack of timely urban policies. As far as I understand, only Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has moved forward and very recently put forward a draft urban policy, which also sheds some light on this issue as well. So keeping these and today's discussion in mind, I see SDPI and the partners who are here today, I see our role in three main spheres. Firstly, we should stand ready to provide the government, both the federal government, the provincial government, the regulators in the space. We should stand ready to provide province-specific and city-specific research on this subject. Equally important is to produce timely research on progressive fiscal policy which can help address the light pollution, and perhaps even encourage or at least shed light on the benefits of conservation of dark skies. Second, I believe that SDPI and partners need to really step up their advocacy, outreach, and policy engagement in this area. We need to tell the stakeholders, including the general public, that we all have control over light pollution, and we need to initiate the dark sky advocacy as a coalition. Third, I believe that there is room for capacity building. Even at a policy-making level, policymakers who are interested in dark skies tourism, we should stand ready to sensitize them and to help them understand the benefits of this. And I'm sure there will be other areas of capacity building as well, which this coalition can identify. In the end, I really appreciate today's meeting. Once again, grateful to all the distinguished panelists who gave us their valuable time. And I would also like to congratulate Dr. Hina, Aslam, and team on this very timely arrangement today. And I give full commitment on behalf of SDPI to really move this agenda forward and prioritize this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.